If I see one more stupid sports betting ad, I swear I'm gonna sneak into the house of the CEO of DraftKings, and I could easily sneak in too, okay? I would just pretend to be the maid. Look at me, they're not gonna ask any questions. You peep these thinning eyebrows? I look like a rehabilitated chola. I'm not a thief, but I will rearrange things. I'm gonna make them start to think that they're going insane. Is that a crime? Yeah, probably. Better yet, I'm gonna stare at them while they sleep, nose to nose. And then they're gonna wake up and think they're being haunted by a light-skinned ghost. And when I inevitably go to court for this, I'm gonna tell the judge, who is going to be an older black woman with a blunt bob, it's the only kind of judge I would accept, that or like an older southern white man that grew up like, making his own grits. And I'll say, Your Honor, I think I have the tism. And she'll go, everybody has that. It's not even special. It's practically airborne at this point. Anyway, the past 2 years in particular, I have noticed, and frankly, many of you have probably noticed, a very infuriating and concerning uptick in the sheer amount of sports betting advertisements I've seen. And none of my algorithmic searches or interests really have much overlap with sports or betting generally. You know it's concerning when people who are not even their primary demo have started to develop a brand awareness. I mean, look at me. I look like an English sub that cries in the supply closet when the kids are mean to her. The kind that volunteered in the inner city to give back. But then one of the wittier kids tells me that I look like Tia and Tamara's fetal alcohol triplet. And eventually I just snap and go, oh, that's really funny, Darius. But I'm not the one that has lead poisoning. And then I understandably get fired. Suffice it to say, I'm not their target demo. What's even more concerning is that even if you have ad block, even if you're not necessarily getting these ads, you'll still be subjected to their marketing via sponsored ad reads on a considerable number of podcasts. These ad reads in particular have become so much more ubiquitous in the past 2 years. Not just that, streaming, which we'll talk about more later on in this video, billboards, and it's gradually normalizing this practice. Now, to be fair, I did say that I was not their primary demo, which is true. I'm a hyper-anxious, immigrant woman. I'm not gonna be making football bets. The only objects I'm really susceptible to getting manipulated into buying at this point are comfortable walking shoes and scarves. But I will, on occasion, consume I don't know, diet bro sort of content, but I always balance it out by doing something a little bit more traditionally feminine, like shoplifting. It's how I maintain my naturally androgynous vibe. I'm like a drawing of a stick figure or a shoe. But you don't even have to consume that much of this content to get bombarded with these ads. I'm just trying to innocently watch an interview with a lunch lady. And now I actually, again, have brand awareness of these websites. And that's how you know the marketing is getting effective, okay? They don't need you to actually be buying anything. Because step one is name recognition. Not being a targeted consumer, but still knowing the brand name is still technically successful marketing. But this is unrelated, but Theo Vaughn does have a mullet that I sort of want to brush with a little Barbie comb. I know my hands would be so greasy afterwards, but I would just dab it on the apples of my cheeks like it's highlighter. This sort of indulgent activity is very disproportionately male. This is very male-coded. And you can tell because most of the online creators that have these sorts of ad placements have disproportionately male audiences. If you know a sad, relatively disgruntled man, or you are one watching right now, you might even have one of these apps on your phone. Or you might have witnessed a sad man in your life, casually scrolling through one of these on his, I want to say an iPhone 7. I mean, I was on the metro the other day, being nosy, as it is my prerogative as an American. The NSA can snoop on people, but I can't. And I saw one of these men scrolling on one of these mobile betting apps. And I could tell it was football. American, not the real one. And I confirmed that's what he was doing because I went in and got a closer look, practically breathing down his neck. And if you wonder how I never get caught doing any of this, it's called transition lenses, okay? Because they glance over at me, I just pretend that I'm blind. I Stevie Wonder that situation. Because now if they say anything, they're the jerk. Normally I am indifferent towards the suffering of my fellow countrymen. However, it is starting to get legitimately concerning. I mean, won't someone think of the divorced fathers? You know who's gonna get hit the hardest by this? Depressed construction workers, frat boys that are forced to have corporate jobs. I don't feel as much for them, but Albanians. I'm not even trying to make a joke here. People's lives are actually going to get ruined. Let's go back a few years to May 14th of 2018, because none of this would have been possible if it wasn't for the Supreme Court overturning the federal ban on sports gambling, also known as the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, or PASPA. That sounds like a defunct soda. In the case of Murray versus the National Collegiate Athletic Association, the court ruled that PASPA violated the 10th Amendment's anti-commandeering principle. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not a constitutional historian, and frankly, I don't care. I mean, I think the Founding Fathers probably would have agreed with this ruling. I don't think they would have really cared about sports betting, especially that plump thotty Benjamin Franklin. Let's be real, you know that he loved a horse track. So as a result, it's up to the states on how to regulate it. And as of 2025, 39 states, and also not so chocolate anymore city DC, plus the location where Bad Bunny respawns, Puerto Rico, have legalized retail or online sports betting. Many of them have done both. Obviously, each state has varying levels of regulation, and states managed to do this with a quickness. Now, consider that in 2019, 1 year after the federal ban, 44% of people who were making bets were doing it through some sort of regulated operator, right? AKA one of these legal websites. It's currently 77%. At the time, 85% of Americans agreed with the Supreme Court's decision, which isn't really that surprising. A lot of these stats are coming from associations that clearly want to push this practice, but the general population being, at the very least, cavalier towards this decision is not that surprising. Indulging in vices, especially classic ones that like a 19th century cowboy would have loved, is as integral to our culture as butter consumption or post-retirement conspiratorial brain rot. The general American attitude towards a lot of these things seems to be, I might not personally like it, but I don't think it should be illegal. Now keep in mind that this legal decision was specifically pertaining to sports betting, not gambling generally, which, I mean, depending on what kind we're talking about, like casinos versus going to like a racing track with horses or greyhounds or little people, you know, like whatever your preference is. All of those had varying levels of legality and regulations. This is like a slightly different category. So all under the same umbrella, but what I'm talking about in this video is specifically related to sports. The marketing for these websites being more aggressive clearly has been paying off, because in the last 12 months, 39 million Americans have placed some sort of sports wager. To give you some understanding of this growth, that means that in 2025, 20% of US adults placed a sports bet. You want to know what it was in 2023? 12. Spending on average an annual $3,824. It's not surprising that despite the federal ban being lifted in 2018, it really took the past 3 years for things to start getting off the ground because, one, it usually takes a while for states to actually iron out their specific regulations. 2020 was not exactly a huge year for live sporting events. Same with 2021, so 2022 is really when the profitability of this industry started to go up. Not to mention, now that it's technically legal, the private sector was rubbing their little greedy hands together looking to fill the niche. And 2022 was a year when I would start to see some of these ads popping up, but much like the concerning rise of any sort of dangerous trend, I ignored it and went back to self-isolating and rewatching Veep. In 2023, the industry netted a profit of $11.04 billion. In 2024, it had reached $13.71 billion, with the fourth quarter of 2024 being its most lucrative in history. 2025 is estimated to have been even more profitable. And this isn't just US growth, this is an industry that's booming globally, with the total global betting market netting around $77.18 billion in 2025. And $44.2 billion of that was just from sports betting, with some projections estimating that the net profits will be around $98.53 billion. Now again, this is an estimate of projected growth. This growth is not set in stone. Hopefully it at least plateaus, if not decreases. I mean, I don't think that will happen. And you know for a fact that football and cricket fans are gonna eat this up. But I don't think the shady bookies in that country are gonna take this lying down. I wouldn't be surprised if, like, I don't know, the cartel and other crime syndicates just started to get in on this industry legally. Like, I don't think this industry can ever not be shady. I just think that now some of these syndicates are just gonna have better paperwork. Now, there are many who would argue that, hey, again, it's a free country. You might not like it, but people shouldn't be arrested for wanting to engage in dangerous behavior, technically. And also, would you rather people go through, you know, shady bookies or do this through legal regulated means? Think prohibition and the subsequent rise of bootlegging and crime syndicates, right? And where would the fedora and bowler hat industry be if it wasn't for these mafiosos? Now it's just hipsters and Spike Lee that are keeping that industry afloat. And I suppose, sure, like, this is a better alternative than, I don't know, betting your mortgage money to some, you know, shady goons in leather jackets. Sure, now your kneecaps might be safe, but you're still gonna lose custody of the kids, Jim. Do you hear me? Delete the app right now. Sheila's already started to pack her bags. She started smoking again because of you. You're forcing your kids to live through a country song. A Willie Nelson one, not Florida Georgia Line. Those sentient natty lights. Also, some would say, you know, hey, it helps the economy. And now that it is taxed, it is technically helping the economy. Pre the 2018 PASPA lift, $150 billion were being waged with illegal operators, and now it's dropped down to about $64 billion. But even that much of a significant drop still robs states of about $700 million in tax revenue annually. I mean, think of how many fighter jets that could have purchased. To be fair, the citizens of many countries might actually prefer if those tax dollars were never collected. The extent of how much money a state can make from taxing winnings varies greatly. States like Iowa have like a 6.7% tax, and it's up to 51% in New York and alleged state Rhode Island. A state that has brought us Family Guy and Pauly D. Cabs, eh? And I can understand the arguments being made here, and I agree that I don't think a person should be arrested for engaging in this kind of behavior. I don't think that's the solution. However, a legal vice is still a vice. It's still a predatory business model, and unfortunately, now that it is legal, a lot of people that might have been dissuaded from engaging in this practice because of its illegality now technically have that option, which means that millions more people are gonna be tempted into trying it out. Currently, there's about 2.5 million Americans that have a severe gambling issue, with an estimated 4.6 million that are at risk. I don't really know how you would objectively measure who is and isn't at risk. Is it safe to say that now, because of its normalization and accessibility, that more people are potentially gonna get sucked into this? Yeah, I would say it's safe to say that. That's a statement I'm comfortable making. Now, the legalization of sports betting is not the only reason for its growth, but like I said, it's normalization and accessibility. And that's mainly through having online options. And remember when I said 2022 is when I started noticing the uptick in these ads? And I don't think that's just a coincidence, because it wasn't until 2022 that a lot of states had actually legalized online sports betting. And you can see the way that it's affected commercial gaming revenue. In 2021, 13% came from digital sources. By 2023, it was 25%. By 2024, it was 30%. Remember the 20% of Americans that I said had wagered a bet in 2025? Of those 20% of Americans, 80% of those individuals were wagering on a mobile device. So now you don't actually have to go to a casino or interact with like a shady person at a bar, or I don't know, go to the horse track like a deadbeat father. It is a vice that is now at your fingertips. You can make a bet on the corn shuckers winning against the turquoise beads. I don't even know. There's gotta be a team in Arizona that's called that, right? Regardless, you can make a bet on that while you're taking the Browns to the Super Bowl, or any other, fecal innuendo you prefer. These people knew how to tap into the convenience economy, and it's paying off. Now, I was surprised to find out that there's apparently actually been a decrease in the amount of advertising for this industry, like a pretty gradual decrease of about 4% every year. However, I think this is in large part because they reported that television ads in particular was the area in which the largest decrease had been noted. And frankly, I don't know what's going on cable, okay? I haven't been consistently watching actual television since, I want to say, mid-Obama administration. Back in like 2020, I think I made the mistake of turning on my TV, and I saw that there was a several-hour marathon of ridiculousness just playing on a loop with Rob Dyrdek chained to that set, interspliced with random big pharma ads, which in this day and age are probably all just prick and become a stick experimental concoctions and elixirs. I used to be built like a blood clot, but now thanks to insert experimental substance, my kids no longer play tuba noises when I walk by them. They think they're too old to get given up for adoption. They're about to find out that's not true. And then the actor goes to listen to white jazz with her friends wearing a cardigan as a calm voice reads out a list of absolutely insane side effects. That's what cable TV is at this point, and I said I don't want any part of this. But apparently ad volume across the board, not just on TV, have decreased, though not as precipitously as TV ads. And then I thought, maybe I'm just tweaking. Maybe I'm just noticing these ads more because they're gradually becoming more irritating. But then I realized that I don't think these stats are taking into account sponsored ad reads. I think they're only accounting for like scripted traditional advertisements, you know what I mean? So I think if anything, the sponsorships actually might be evening it out again. Now, another reason for this growth is, well, I don't really know if I can find any stats backing this up. I don't think I'm wrong on this, but this is my personal theory that I think a lot of you will agree with. Anytime there is financial instability or just a general mental health decline, I'm not surprised when there is an uptick in this kind of industry, and these kinds of industries that are addictive, very self-destructive, anything that'll give you like quick dopamine hit, anything to escape reality. It's why I think the Twinkie/sad binge snack food industry is going to always remain profitable. Fat and sugar, the OG dopamine supplements for poor people. So I think that is ultimately at the foundation of this. Another factor is the participation of sports associations with these betting websites. In April of 2021, the NFL named DraftKings, Caesars, like the casino, which I'm assuming has online betting options at this point, and FanDuel as official betting partners. They started to allow significantly more sportsbook ads per game. And it's not surprising that the NFL would latch onto this industry because currently in the US market, football is the biggest sports that people bet on, which is not really that surprising. Like, I knew it wasn't going to be women's tennis. That's what I would bet on. I believe in my Slavic girls and the Williams sisters. Not anymore. It's kind of crazy. If you do not have beads in your hair or you have a completely unpronounceable last name, you're not going to be good at tennis. Just give up already. Now, one of the components of these ads that has really irked me, maybe more than it should have. Actually, no, I think it's an appropriate amount of irritation, frankly, is the sheer number of celebrities that are endorsing these websites. BetMGM, because again, of course, these casinos have to get in on the game. They're the OGs. And they know that eventually the retirees that, made up the bulk of their customers are eventually going to pass away. Or eventually their muscle atrophy is going to reduce their dexterity, so they gotta build a new client base. Jamie Foxx was their go-to. DraftKings, of course, has a little chocolate drop Kevin Hart. Recently deflated Post Malone. The Mahogany Tree Shack. Online creators like Drewski. And again, not to mention the numerous podcasters who are arguably more influential than a lot of these celebrities. And a lot of these people I like, especially Shaq, which is why this hurts so much. Icy Hot, I can understand. You know that Giants' joints are aching constantly. That's an endorsement I actually believe. But at this point, I'm not gonna lie, like, I do lose a certain amount of respect for these people when this is the money that you're gonna take. There has to be a line. Do you need more money? Do you not have enough? I can understand why broke people do things that are questionable for money. I'm not justifying it, but I can understand it. If I saw like Wesley Snipes or Nick Cage doing one of these ads, I'd go, what is it, child support? Or let me guess, your golden sarcophagus collection isn't selling at Christie's auction house? Sorry, Nick, okay, but only tacky Persians are gonna buy this. No waspy woman is gonna put this in her apartment. Unless she's planning on using it as some sort of demented punishment device to lock her servants in if they misbehave. I'm being serious though, like, do you need more money? Are the millions not enough? Do you need to buy another house? And see, if I was a hack, this is where I put an ad placement. But I'm not gonna do that. No. No, I'm better than that. Or am I? Yeah, I am actually. Now, I'm not saying I would do anything violent to them, okay? But, I do want to put like a little pebble in their shoe. That's my favorite form of protest. One that is petty and, most importantly, ineffective. Now, thankfully, it seems as if not that many Americans, currently about 12%, considered celebs to be effective endorsers. Globally, it's 9%. This was from 2021. I don't know how comprehensive this survey was, or how exactly these opinions translate into buying practices. What is concerning, however, is the 55 and older demos were actually twice as likely to be influenced by these endorsements compared to younger demographics as it pertains to sportsbooks, which does make these celeb endorsements more frustrating considering how much of the market these older demos comprise. There's various reasons that younger people are less of the market than many people would have expected. For starters, there's usually 21-year-old age limits. A lot of college campuses just straight up do not allow these kinds of ads. Plus, let's be real, there's less disposable income. Like, there's plenty of sad, depressed college students, but you can't exactly bet with Chuck E. Cheese tokens. You can try. Also, speaking as an older Gen Zer, this sort of betting is less of a youth culture thing, at least in my personal experience. I think that people our age are, I don't want to say if it's a bit more media savvy, as much as I do think that people in my generation, and especially younger ones, have this knee-jerk, this is a psyop kind of reaction to a celebrity in particular telling us to do something that seems a little shady. Which I think, by the way, that marketers actually understand this and have been tapping into it, because remember the whole situation with vapes? Smoking generally and nicotine consumption was down amongst younger people, and then all of a sudden, vapes came around, right? Where I started to get a little conspiratorial. As you remember, in like the mid-2010s, there was this onslaught of those dumb anti-vaping ads, and they were so cringe, and they featured all these internet celebs. The reaction from a lot of Gen Zers was just to roll their eyes. Yet the rate of vape usage usage has gone up. And I think, in part, this was like some sort of reverse psychology move on behalf of these marketers. I'm not even kidding. The tinfoil hat is firmly on, because vape usage started to go up. I mean, I can't exactly blame that entirely on that specific marketing campaign, but I'm just saying, I'm seeing connections. Okay, I'm putting up red string, I'm connecting the dots. My local Michaels hates to see me coming because I'm buying up all of those corkscrew boards. As it goes with vaping, and in this specific case, gambling and overeating, and like, to be honest with you, at this point, this is just a byproduct of the fact that unhealthy dependencies in this country as a coping mechanism have just become the norm. And I'm not saying this from this position of like, oh, these plebs just don't know how to engage in self-discipline. I am very sympathetic to this being people's coping mechanism. And you know, with the rise of AI, it's only gonna get worse. They're gonna know how to make these websites even more addicting. They're gonna learn how to cater to the specific habits of the individual user. Like, I have no faith that it's gonna get better. I think best case scenario, the industry might plateau. I'm feeling a little sad. I think I might nibble on some dark chocolate. I suck on it like it's a cough drop. Pretty much every kind of dependency at this point has, I don't know if I would say that they are accepted. I will say that alcohol dependency is 100% not only normalized, it is borderline celebrated in this country. I don't even think that's a controversial opinion to have at this point. And trust me, okay, I have a naturally addictive personality type, and I'm lucky that it hasn't manifested into any sort of dependency. If I see somebody in a casino on their 5th cocktail ignoring a call from their spouse, think, honestly, if the circumstances of my upbringing had been slightly different, I probably would be them. If I see somebody down the street who's clearly, on the pipe, I think if I was in their situation, I'd be doing crack too. Truth be told, it wouldn't even take that much for me to pick up the pipe. Now, what I can't stand is a response to industries like this booming, being like, well, people are, responsible for their own actions. If you're a grown adult, you don't have to engage in this kind of behavior. And yes, that is true. I believe in the concept of accountability, but I do think it's very frustrating when people want to sit here and act like industries that rely on people having unhealthy and devastating dependencies that add nothing to their lives, while personally enriching a handful of people, which, to be fair, is like, that's a lot of industries. If you don't think that is fundamentally evil, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what you get from playing devil's advocate, okay? Because he's not gonna write you a check. Now, right now, this industry is very male. I mean, historically, it's been disproportionately male, but you can start to see them trying to tap into the female market, like on a lower level. The lowest level of gambling being mystery boxes. I'm looking at you, Labubus, those little evil Chinese dolls. I'm not against buying dumb trinkets, like in principle. I don't believe in spending a bag on them. I think that's financially irresponsible. You could have done anything with that money. Donated it. You could have used that cash as a tissue to blow your nose in front of a person who is struggling financially. Any number of reasonable and dignified things. I personally have looked into buying one of those hyper-realistic orangutan baby dolls that make noises when you press their stomach. They're so demented. And I think they actually are meant for people who have dementia or something. I don't know. Mainly because I do want to bring one of these dolls to a family event and pretend like it's actually my child. So then the people that are close to me go, oh, okay, she's officially lost it. And then they never ask me to do anything for them. I've been weaponizing my incompetence for years. I've been doing it before emotionally abused fathers. Where's my credit? So I don't have anything against dumb little trinkets. But Labubus, I don't know what it is about them. I don't like how whimsical their name is. Okay, first of all, you're not freaking Roald Dahl. And something about them. I don't know if I believe in metaphysical energies that radiate from inanimate objects. There is something legitimately evil about these things. I don't know. I don't think it's just the weird teeth. It's the same vibe I get from an elf on the shelf. Those little snitches. It's on sight. Anytime I see one of those things, I'm flinging it into a fireplace. And I'm suspicious of you if you have one in your house. Why is there a narc sitting on your shelf? For now, it's mostly mystery box stuff. Again, it's lower level, but I am intrigued to see how they try and market towards women. If Taylor Swift gets on board, it's done. It's done. It's over. They're gonna have suburban white women in a chokehold. And those Beckys have disposable income. Nah, she would never do that. Or would she? I don't want to think about it. I don't want the market to expand. I'm saying that I think it's just going to gradually get even more normalized. It's very pernicious. Even Roblox has casino games. Roblox. Now, to be fair, the guidelines surrounding this are kind of hazy because you're not allowed to actually reference gambling. There's a lot of restrictions. There's more simulations of casino games. You're not actually allowed to use any sort of real world currency or even Robux or anything that actually has any value in the outside world or within the context of Roblox. So So there can be no betting or winning or wagering any items of value. The game also has to be appropriately rated, so 17 plus. Is this odd and a bit concerning? Yes. I don't know if I would be able to confidently say that this is going to end up impacting children's interest in betting, especially with anything that actually involves real currency. I don't have any long-term stats on this, especially because this is a fairly new phenomenon. Granted, I don't think that it being normalized, even on this level, is a net positive, but I think a bit more research needs to be done in this area. There is one area of the online sphere that I know a lot of young people are watching that I would say is 100% not only normalizing, but like straight up glamorizing it, and that is frickin' streamers. They have shamelessly taken it to a whole new level. Platforms like Kick, which is where you go if you are a disgraced streamer that's basically been kicked off every other platform. Stake.com, which is an online/social casino, we'll get into whatever the heck that even means later on, has been heavily promoted by creators on this platform, which is known for, I mean, I don't even know, being the wild, wild west of the streaming world, kind of like Live Leak, but with less like sniper POV footage. I mean, you have people like Drake, who is a paragon of vice. He'll stream his gambling sessions in between trying to dutty wine. With his little corporate glasses and fresh cornrows, he looks like a secretarial baddie. And don't come for me, because I also technically have braids and little glasses, okay? They make sense on me because I was born a librarian. Aiden Ross, the infamous chair sniffer, is probably the most common streamer of these little money squandering sessions. He'll even team up with other streamers like French-Canadian QVC. I know that's not his actual screen name, but I'm just gonna call him that. And they have partnerships with Stake.com. People think that Drake is like a part owner of Stake. I don't know if this is true or not. I think he just likes using it. And again, I know that there's going to be a lot of people saying parents are responsible for what they allow their kids to watch. And again, that is generally true. However, if you know that a large portion of your audience is young people, and I don't just mean that like that's a coincidence, you know they're deliberately appealing to kids. And also, you have to consider that only 13-year-olds are going to actually be able to watch 20 plus minutes of any continuous footage of these individuals. Most people who have proper, full prefrontal cortex brain development, a lot of these creators are not going to be appealing to them, except in, maybe short bursts. If you know that you have a primarily young and impressionable audience, I think it is very irresponsible to be endorsing behavior like this. Now, I'm not going to go as far as to say you're personally responsible for the behavior of people watching you, even if they're younger. I don't think that's fair, and I think having that sort of mentality can veer into like a level of censorship that is farcical and removes any accountability from the individual viewer. However, do I think it's wildly irresponsible and unethical? Yes. And I don't buy that these creators don't know any better, or that the betting companies that are endorsing them are not aware of how influential these creators are. So I mentioned how Stake is a social casino, like generally speaking, and you might be thinking, what the heck does that even mean? Basically, the way that it works is that you bundle these gold coins, like you purchase these gold coins, which don't have any real world value, but they can be gambled and then exchanged for cryptocurrency. Now, some have suggested that this is an attempt to evade state laws and regulations that pertain to this sort of online behavior, and that this is a business model that seems like it's grounds for a lawsuit. And wouldn't you know, that is precisely what happened a few weeks ago when the aforementioned Aiden Ross and Drakey Poo were sued in a class action lawsuit in Missouri that, quote, accuses the online platform of circumnavigating state gambling laws and accuses Drake and Ross of deeply fraudulent marketing for the company. The plaintiff in this lawsuit is named Justin Kilham, and of course in the lawsuit it states that everything I mentioned regarding their weird sort of gray area practices constitute as a, quote, clear vehicle for real money gambling, with Justin obviously having lost money as a result of what he claims to be the defendant's wrongful trade practices. The lawsuit also accuses Stake of very deceptive marketing and the clear targeting of teenagers. The lawsuit even mentioning the practice of a lot of these streamers being provided money, like house money, by Stake. So they're technically not even losing their own money. So any loss that they report that is obviously going to be attention grabbing isn't even necessarily theirs, but it draws in attention and criticism, but attention nonetheless, which the lawsuit claims is a deliberate manipulative marketing tactic. Now, I am not intimately familiar with how Stake operates, so if I misrepresented how exactly their business model works, or if you watch any of these streamers on a regular basis and I said anything that was technically inaccurate, please let me know, because I don't want to mislead people. But this is an actual lawsuit. Do I think it's going to go to court? I'm not sure. I mean, I know Drake is going to be lawyered up This ain't his first rodeo. I don't know if anything is gonna come out of this lawsuit. Am I surprised that someone went the true American route and got litigious? No. And frankly, I think there's gonna be more lawsuits to come. Despite the number of people who, upon hearing people inquire as to what the best routes for betting are, etc., are screaming at them to just not start. Like they're the one walking out of the figurative casino, like grabbing at you, clinging to your legs and begging you to turn around before it's too late. Despite all that, I do not see this industry going away anytime soon. With the current state of the world, if anything, I probably think the revenue is going to go up. Their expansion into the global market is probably going to be successful, unless, I don't know, a bunch of countries start cracking down on them, you know, because gambling is haram or something. It is, isn't it? It must be. Anyway, what are your thoughts on this growing phenomenon? I think I made my piece very clear. I did way more research for this video than I had anticipated, and now I'm starting to get a cold. Do you use any of these websites? Like, you can be honest, okay? I'm not here to judge you or anything like that. But yeah, this video is brought to you by DraftKings. Imagine if that was actually true. Imagine if the end of this video, it turned out that this was like just an entire sort of reverse psychology advertisement. I'm just kidding. I would never do that. I'm not a brokey like a lot of you. I'll stop. I don't know why I love insulting you people so much. Maybe because you just sit there and take it. You ever consider that maybe you like being insulted? That maybe you deserve it? I think I'm gonna end this video. As always, like, comment, subscribe. If you want me to cover another topic or another growing trend, then please let me know in the comment section down below. Or tell me anything. Tell me that you love me, that you like me, that you hate me, or you think that I'm annoying or like ugly or weird or whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't delete comments and I need the engagement. As always, thank you for watching. Shout out to my top patrons. If you would like to donate to my Patreon, then please click on the link that's in the description or on screen. I upload new videos every single week, a lot of weird stuff that doesn't really do that well on here, so it's not as profitable to post on this platform, but my lowest tier is $3 a month. You have access to a bunch of stuff if you want to give more, if you want to be more generous. I mean, I'm not gonna stop you. But thank you to all my other lovely patrons. Your names should be scrolling on screen as I speak. Bye.